Hello everybody, it's Jessica and her sweet little bearded dragon Bill Nye, and I'm popping in at the beginning of my Pan That Palette update to give this video a little bit of a disclaimer. The audio in the video is very bad. I am fully aware and I apologize. And the reason the quality is so bad is because I filmed it in the middle of a heat wave and I live above a garage where all the heat rises and gets trapped and makes my life very difficult in the summer. And in order to film this video comfortably, I kept my fan on in the background. And I'll admit it doesn't sound great, but I'm not filming this video again. I don't have the time. So here it is. I hope you still enjoy it. I apologize for that. I'll try better in the future. I'm not a professional vlogger or video maker, so thank you for your understanding, and I hope you still are able to enjoy the video. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Jessica if you are. Today is my 7th update for my Pan That Palette of the year, and if you've been following me, you know that I'm currently working on panning my Shaaaanxo, the Remix palette from BHcosmetics. This is an old palette in my collection, but it's one that I've loved for many years, and I am very much enjoying painting it this year. So I'm not crazy, I'm not doing anything too hectic, I'm not trying to use up this palette entirely. That would be beyond my capacity to do, at least in the course of a year, and we're not devoting several years to one palette. There is too much eyeshadow out there to enjoy, but I do want to try and hit pan on every single one of the shades in this palette. So if you are new to the series and you want to catch up, I'll go ahead and link the playlist for the videos right up here. But if you are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to show you each and every one of these shades and let you know the progress I've been able to make on them from last month to this month, as well as show you those very satisfying montage videos of all of the months of progress so far. So if you're into that, definitely stay tuned. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in my makeup little community here. Let's get right on into the video. This palette is a double-sided palette, so we're going to start with side A, which is the original side of this palette before they re-released it with side B. So here's what side A was looking like when I first brought it into the project in January. I had a couple pans in there. I believe there was one on Clarity, Holy Grail, and Glow Baby, and maybe Toasted if I'm remembering correctly. Here's what the palette was looking like last month. And as you can see, we had finished Clarity and have quite a few new pans on there, including Silhouette. And here's what the palette is looking like today. So no new pans this month, but I hope I will have some expansion to show you on some of these shades. My goal for this side of the palette was to use each of the shades with pan on them at least 6 times, and then I wanted to use Terracotta at least 8 times. So let's skip right over Clarity because I finished that after 79 uses in the project several months ago now, and move on to Holy Grail. Here's what Holy Grail was looking like last month. This was after 29 uses in the project. My goal was to use it 6 times, and I was able to reach for it 7 times, making for 36 uses total. And here's Holy Grail today. And I'm hoping that the pan will be very ever so slightly larger, but this is just such a slow going shade. Because of the amount of product I use each time I reach into this, it's just not a lot. So let's move on to Glow Baby, which is always a similar story. Here's what Glow Baby was looking like last month. This was after 23 uses in the project. My goal was to use it at least 6 times. I was only able to reach for it 5 times, and here's what it's looking like today after now 28 uses in the project. So that one too probably might have a slight expansion in the size, but probably nothing too impressive. Not really stressing about those shades. I'm just happy they have a pan on them, and I'm just using them organically for the remainder of the year, and we'll see what I can do with them that way. Moving on to the second row, we have Buttercup. So here's what Buttercup was looking like last month. This was after 59 uses in the project. I reached for it 9 times in the past month, making for 68 uses total, and here's what Buttercup is looking like today. So I think with those 9 uses, you should see a slight difference in the size of that pan. This is such an easy transition shade to reach for, and I really like having it in this palette. I'm excited to just reach for it more and more and more in the next few months as I'm focusing on this side for the remainder of the year. And if I can get this one finished up, I would feel very satisfied with that. I know it's going to take some concerted effort to do so, but I am up for the challenge. So let's go on to Beach Babe. Here's what Beach Babe was looking like last month after 29 uses in this project. I didn't quite reach that 6 use goal. I reached for it 5 times, making for 34 uses total, and here's Beach Babe today. And I'm hoping that it looks a little bit bigger for you. The shade's pretty crumbly, and I've been really focusing on the edges there when I reach for it. It's a beautiful shade. I love wearing bronze shades all over the lid. I think they're really easy everyday go-to shades, so I'm excited to keep reaching for that one wanted to see what kind of damage I can do on it as we continue through this project. Moving on to Terracotta, the last shade on this side without a pan on it, but I did definitely put my effort into it this month, and I think we're starting to see a little bit more of a dip. So here's what Terracotta was looking like last month. This was after 21 uses in the project. My goal was to reach for it 8 times, and I did reach for it those 8 times, making for 29 uses total. And here's Terracotta today. And I think that dip is starting to become more apparent, which is exciting to see, but still no pan in sight, which is a little bit surprising to me because I love this shade so much. It's probably one of my favorite shades in the palette. That nice warm toned mid brown, I love that. But it's very pigmented and very firmly pressed, so it's just hard for me to make a lot of progress on it. But I'm excited to keep reaching for it. I have no doubt I'll have pan on it, maybe not next month, but hopefully in the next couple months, long before this year is over. On to the last row of this side, we have Toasted. I do have Toasted on my lid today, all over the outer and middle part of the lid, kind of blended in with some purples and pinks that are also from this palette, which we'll get to later. So here's what Toasted was looking like last month. This was after 18 uses in the project. My goal was to reach for it 6 times. I only was able to reach for it 2 times, making for 20 uses total, and here's what Toasted's looking like today. So probably not going to see the progress on that one that I hoped we would see. I'm pretty disappointed I wasn't able to use it more, but I think my usage goal was a little high for this side of the palette just because there are so many topper shades on this side, at least 3. I'm not going to be able to reach for all 3 of those topper shades within a month period, especially during this past month of July. I really was not doing my makeup as often as I normally do, so I didn't have the opportunity to use as many eyeshadows as I normally would. So I'm gonna let myself slide a little bit on that one. I love that shade. It's gonna be a beautiful shade in the winter, and I'm excited to reach for that more cool toned shade once the summer months are, gone and past. Next shade is Avocado, a beautiful green brown shifting shade. Here's what Avocado was looking like last month. This was after 21 uses in the project. Again, I only reached for the shade 2 times, making for 23 uses total, and here's Avocado today. So similar story to Toasted, I just didn't get around to reaching for these lid shades as much as I wanted to. Keep in mind, when doing this project, I'm doing pan those eyeshadows. I have other eyeshadows I'm panning in other projects, so there's a lot going on right now, and I'm just happy I got use on this palette in general. We're gonna have a weight difference, I'm sure, and we will catch up on uses on these shades in the future. I promise you that. Let's go on to that last shade, Silhouette. Here's what Silhouette was looking like last month. I had just recently hit pan on it after 28 uses. My goal was to reach for it 6 more times, which I did hit that 6 use goal, and here's what it's looking like today after 34 uses in this project. And I think that little baby pan is just a slightly bigger baby pan now. I've mostly just been using this to top my cream gel eyeliner, or my pencil eyeliner I should say, and it's a great just way to kind of set that and blur it out and just get a use on this black shadow. So happy I got my usage goal on that one, but I did fall short on Beach Babe, Toasted, and Avocado, but I'm not too stressed about it. I am really satisfied with how this palette is looking on this side, and I'm excited to keep expanding these in the coming months. So that's all for side A, but before we move on to side B, please enjoy this montage of all the progress from side A from January up until today. And now for the remix side of the Shaaaanxo Remix palette, side B. So here's what side B was looking like when I first brought it into the project in January. At that time, I believe I had a pan on Dream Girl, Bestie, and Baby Girl. Here's what the palette was looking like last month. We had just 2 more shades yet to have a pan on them, Stalker and Lover. And here's what side B is looking like today. And yes, I have one new pan. That was one of my goals this month, was to hit at least one more pan, and Stalker was the focus shade that I was hoping to hit that pan on, and I did indeed do that. So now again, on side B, I have just one remaining shade left to hit pan on, which is Lover. So this is great news. That means I have just 2 new shades to hit pan on before this year is up, and I know I'm gonna hit my goal of hitting pan on every single one of these very soon, but I'm gonna continue to go strong on this palette, of course, and use as much of it as I can before this year is up. But before we get into all that, let's go through each of these shades and tell you what I was able to do on them from last month to this month. I'm hoping we're gonna see a little bit of pan expansion, but this is not my focus side anymore. I really am trying to focus on side A for the remainder of the year, but that doesn't mean we're gonna forget about this side entirely. And funnily enough, I hit my goal on most of the shades in here, but of course I had a lower goal. So for this side, I was hoping to hit that pan in Stalker, and I also wanted to use all of the shades at least 4 times. So let's go ahead and start off with Island Glow. So here's what Island Glow was looking like last month. This was after 38 uses in the project. I reached for it exactly 4 times, making for 42 uses total, and here's what it's looking like today. And this one's gonna have a similar story to Glow Baby and Holy Grail in that I'm not using a lot of product when I reach for it, so you're probably not gonna see a big difference with those 4 uses, but 4 uses is 4 uses, and we're gonna continue chipping away at that one, of course. Next shade is Need You, and I've been using this shade a lot as a contour shade. I actually have it on my cheeks today as like my main shape, and then kind of blend that out with my bronzer. So I've been getting a lot more use on it with that method, but I'm using a big fluffy brush, so you might not see that use reflected in the size of the pan. Here's what Need You was looking like last month. This was after 58 uses in the project. I reached for it 8 times this month, so 4 uses over my 4 use goal, making for 66 uses total, and here's what Need You is looking like today. And again, I don't know if you'll see much of a difference in the size, hopefully at least a slight difference, but I have been using kind of a fluffier brush to reach in there for the contour, so it's not getting the amount of like pinpointed product pickup that other brushes do, but still I'm happy I'm getting good use on it, and that's another one that I would love to have a nice big juicy pan on before this year is up. Let's move on to Dark Horse. I've been using this shade in my brows, and I've been loving getting use on it that way. I took a little break from one of my favorite brow gels to use up a clear brow gel, so the clear brow gel puts my brows in place, and then Dark Horse fills it in, and that's been working quite nicely. So here's what Dark Horse was looking like last month. This was after 43 uses in the project. I reached for it 11 times this month, making for 54 uses total, and here's Dark Horse today. So even with those 11 uses, I don't think you're gonna see much of a big difference. Again, we have a little baby pan in there still. I'm using such a small pinpointed brush when I reach in for that for my eyeshadow or as a liner topper. And I'm just happy that it's getting that continued use, and I'm sure we'll have a nice sizable pan on there eventually, but nothing too crazy, and that's totally fine with me. Moving on to Dream Girl. I've been loving this as a blush topper / highlight, and I also have this on my eyes today on the inner part of my lid, blended in with Toasted on the outer part of my lid, and I think they look kind of pretty together. So here's what Dream Girl was looking like last month. This was after 28 uses in the project. I reached for her 4 times this past month, making for 32 uses total, and here's Dream Girl today. And I don't know how much of a difference you'll see with just those 4 uses, and again, I'm also using a bigger fluffy blush brush with this one most of the time, so you might not see a huge difference, but that's another one that I think will get pretty large if I just continue to reach for it. Let's move on to Stalker, my exciting new pan. So here's what Stalker was looking like last month. It did have a little bit of a dip going in there, quite a dip actually. This was after 3 uses in the project. My goal was to reach for it 4 times and hit pan, and I was able to do that. Here's what it's looking like today. After 34 uses, I actually hit pan on the 33rd use, but I reached for it 1 more time to hit that 4 use goal, and that is in my look today in the outer corners of my crease. And this is just a beautiful shade. It really can be quite versatile for being a hot pink, and I have enjoyed playing with it. Even though I'm getting pretty burnt out on pinks this year, I'm, still going strong. We're not gonna give up yet, and we'll see what I can do with Stalker. I'm just so happy it has a pan now. The next shade is Vampette. This one kind of fell by the wayside this month. Here's what it was looking like last month. This was after 29 uses in the project. I was hoping to reach for it 4 times, but I was only able to reach for it twice. Here's what it's looking like today after 31 uses in this project. And it's probably looking exactly the same, but what are you gonna do? There's a lot of goals trying to be met at the same time, and maybe I'm spreading myself a little bit too thin. So maybe my goals for this next update will be a little bit more reasonable, and I won't have to put so much pressure on myself. Although, pressure makes diamonds, pressure pans palettes, So we gotta find a happy balance there, of course. Moving on to our final row, we have Bestie. So here's what Bestie was looking like last month. This was after 39 uses in the project. I was able to reach for it 4 times. My goal, making for 43 uses total, and here's what Bestie's looking like today. And again, I've been using this one as a blush, so you might not see a lot of difference from those 4 uses, but that pan is getting pretty big and I'm happy with that. Next shade is Lover, our last shade on this side without a pan, but it does have a nice satisfying dip starting to go on that one, so I can smell the pan. I can taste the pan. It's coming. Pan is coming very soon. Here's what Lover was looking like last month. This was after 29 uses in the project. I reached for it 4 times, making for 33 uses total, and here's Lover today. And I hope that the camera is able to capture the depth of this pan. I can even start to see the little circular pattern of the pan through the shape of the shadow. So that makes me think that pan is very, very close. And my goal will be to have a pan on Lover by the next update. I think I should be able to do that if I reach for it maybe 5 or 6 more times. Pan should be there. So that will be my goal coming up. And I'm very excited to have pan on every single one of these shades very, very soon. Our last shade is Baby Girl, and I do have Baby Girl on my look today in my crease, on the inner part of my crease, just to make that pink pop a little bit more. And then I also have it on my cheeks to give me nice hot pink, pop of pink on those cheeks, which I love. Here's what Baby Girl was looking like last month. This was after 25 uses in the project. I was able to reach for it 4 times, making for 29 uses total, and here's Baby Girl today. And I don't think you're gonna see much of a difference with those 4 uses. But again, that's another one that I'll just be chipping away at. I'm just happy it has a pan, and I'm happy with any progress I make on it. And I plan to use it more as a blush moving forward, and we'll just see what we can do with it. I might not be using it too much as an eyeshadow just because of my burnout with pinks, but I'm gonna be reaching for it a little bit all the same just to keep chipping away at it, and we'll see what happens, as we will with the rest of this palette. So now that we've gone through all of those shades, please enjoy this beautiful montage of all of the months of progress of side B from January up until today. Are we tracking this palette visually? We are also taking weights on this palette. So when I first brought this palette into the project in January, it was weighing 167.46 grams. Last month, it was down to 163.27 grams. And as of this month, the palette weighs in at 162.44 grams. So we are down 0.83 grams from last month to this month, which is a huge jump. That's over double what I was able to do in the previous month. And in total from January to today, we are down 5 grams from this palette. I'm very impressed with that 5 gram number. I think that if I continue reaching for this as much as I plan to, I should be able to get close to the 10 gram mark of product used up from this palette during the course of the year, which is an amazing amount of eyeshadow in my opinion. So I'm just excited to keep chipping away at this, and I know that I'm going to finish strong with this palette, and it's going to be very well loved by the end of the year before I eventually do declutter and say goodbye to it, just because it's getting so old and I want to give it as much love as I can this year and then say goodbye and show all that love to other things in my collection for the future. Finally, let's talk about my goals for this palette for the next month. So I already have told you that I want to hit pan on Lover. I've said that goal several times, but I think this is the time it's actually going to happen. I'm going to try and reach for it at least, let's say 6 times. I think that should get me to pan, but I'm not going to have like a usage goal. I'm just going to have a pan goal on Lover. For all these other shades on side A, I'm going to say I want to reach for them at least 3 times. I'm definitely going to reach for some of them more, but if I hit 3 uses on some of these more difficult shades, I'll be happy with that. And then for side A, because it is my focus side for the remainder of the year, I'm going to try and reach for terracotta again at least 8 times. Really get that dip a little bit deeper and that much closer to pan. And then for each of these other remaining shades, I think I'm gonna put them at 5 uses for each shade. I know I can do that with Buttercup, Silhouette, you know, Holy Grail, and Glow Baby pretty easily. Beach Babe, Avocado, and Toasted are my kind of like challenge. Not that they're hard to use, but they're just competing with a lot of other eyeshadows. So if I can reach for those ones 5 times, I'll be happy with that. I suspect I'll reach for Buttercup quite a few more times, maybe closer to 10 uses on that one. So if I'm at least able to use them 5 times, I'll be happy to hit that goal. Wish me luck on all of my eyeshadow painting aspirations. Thank you. And that is all for my Pan That Palette update for the month of August. Thank you so much for watching it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a quick thumbs up before you leave. It really does help me out so much. But you're helping me out so much just by being here and watching this video. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you all so much for being here. I'm sending my love out to you wherever you are in the world that this video finds you. I hope you're doing well, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. Bye.